Hey everybody, Mike Miller with the Herald Times coming to you with columnist Jeremy Price from Assembly Hall after Indiana's 73-65 win over Illinois. Tell you seventh straight victory, their third in a row to start Big Ten play, third 3-0 start to Big Ten play since the 2012-13 season. Both the last time they've started 3-0, they've gone on to win the Big Ten. Still still a ways away from even being really able to talk about that. Just kind of given the nature of the conference this year. But nonetheless, Indiana taking care of some of the teams fighting for a spot in the middle of the Big Ten this year, doing what they should to kind of elevate themselves in the process. And tonight, weathering a sloppy, ugly start against the muddled Illinois, frenetic, whatever you want to call it, approach to playing whatever that is. I'm not sure it's basketball, but it's fine.
That applies on both ends of the floor.
Sorry, I don't enjoy watching Illinois play basketball. It's a personal thing of mine. You may enjoy it. That's for you. So be it.
It's a bit disjointed.
It is, to say the least. But anyway, IU was a bit disjointed to start, but really found its legs over the final 30 minutes. Really, the latter half of the first half, and then Romeo Langford, by and large, took over to start the second half. First 10 points for IU coming out of the break. Had his own personal 8-0 scoring run coming out of halftime. Just once again, and we'll talk about this too, just within that, just kind of showing more and more the different things he's able to do as his college career continues.
Yeah, and that wasn't really a surprise to me. If anything, it was the fact that it took Romeo so long to get going in this game, because I really thought that this game suited him really well, the way Illinois was going to pressure. And typically, if you've watched very many Illinois games, the MO is basically pressure on the perimeter, absolutely Swiss cheese once you get past that initial pressure, not a lot of resistance at the basket. So I really thought if Romeo could force the issue and get to the basket, that he was going to have a good night. And like I said, it took, 10, 12 minutes before he kind of really got going. But once he did, I think he sort of started to realize that there wasn't anybody on this Illinois team that was going to keep him from getting where he wanted to go, basically. And that proved out in the second half. And, it was a big game for Romeo to step up, because with Rob Phinisee out, I think you could make a case that Rob Phinisee's been the best freshman, or most valuable freshman at least, on this team through the early part of this year. Not that Romeo hasn't been good, but just Indiana's needed Phinisee so much at that point guard spot to run things and kind of control things so much that in this game, basically Romeo did a lot of filling those shoes. Devontae Green was kind of Devontae Green.
Yeah.
He was hit and miss, although I did think he was pretty good defensively on Trent Frazier by and large. That's something that could easily get overlooked in this kind of game. But the ball was in Romeo's hands a lot more, and it was something that he's comfortable with, because if you look back at his career, his high school career, that was something that wasn't unusual for him to do for New Albany. Was, at times they could put the ball in his hands. It didn't happen all the time, but there were times when it did happen, when he needed to handle the ball. And so this isn't just a new thing. Oh, hey, you're in college now, you're at IU, come take control of the ball kind of thing. This is something he's comfortable with.
Something he's comfortable with, and I think it's something that Archie Miller has kind of been mindful of, trying to do a little bit more of as the season's continued, for a number of reasons, particularly given where Indiana is right now personnel-wise, as you mentioned, without Rob Phinisee, but also, A, it is something he's done in the past, but also, two, just getting him more in the middle of the floor, getting him with the ball in the middle of the floor just opens things up for the team as a whole. So by and large, it was kind of that next step of Romeo's evolution, I think, as a college player. Just kind of seeing what he was able to do with the ball in his hands tonight was kind of it kind of been building, I think, or at least bubbling behind the scenes is something they wanted to unleash at some point.
Yeah, I think so. And also, by putting the ball in his hands, it sort of forces Romeo to be more aggressive sooner, instead of letting the game come to him, which he's prone to do. And I guess he still kind of did that tonight. But once he got the ball in his hands and got going, then things were good. But once again, IU basically digs a 10-point deficit. Romeo's just kind of being chill Romeo, and then comes to life. So that's something this team's kind of got to figure out. Not that you don't want guys to force it, but whether it's Romeo or Juwan Morgan or whoever, really those two guys are the guys you want initiating things to start out a game, or at least play through those guys to create for others to start out a game. And I think they had 13 points in the first 4 minutes, and then dry spell, which, again, it's something that's kind of been the norm for this team, and I don't know that it's going to go away. This team's prone to some offensive droughts. Fortunately for them, they're better at creating droughts for the other team now with their defense, which they did again tonight. So that's kind of enabled them to overcome those offensive lulls.
Yeah, no, I mean it's definitely been a pattern. Archie Miller was kind of joking about it afterwards. I mean it's a bad habit and one that you can almost kind of count on when these games start. I mean, and I do wonder if to some degree that as you mentioned, it took a while for Romeo to get going. Well, it almost always takes a little while for Romeo to get going. He's usually a guy who, if he's not kind of finding himself late in the first half, it's usually you see him early in the second half. He's usually a guy who surfaces really in the middle of these games, as we've seen throughout the schedule. And I agree. Finding him a way to maybe get more aggressive or get him, more of a I don't know exactly how to put this, but definitely kind of getting him involved a little bit earlier without having that feeling out process that honestly seems to take sometimes 8-10 minutes of a game to really find a way to get him utilized or get him comfortable in the game. That could go a long way itself, but also as we've seen in turnovers at other points in other games have been an issue early on. But, I mean, there's a few different factors I think we've seen as common themes to some of these slow starts.
And I think probably the other factor in that is Indiana's tendency to get off to a slow start defensively, so they don't create much in transition, no opportunities to kind of get going that way. They're giving up points to the other team. I don't know what Illinois have, about 25 points in the first 10 minutes or so of this game, 10, 12 minutes.
They were averaging, I think, almost nearly 1.5 points per possession through the first 8-10 minutes. So
yeah, so again, if you're not getting any stops defensively and getting transition where guys can get involved, that makes it a lot more difficult when you're just trying to play half-court offense, half-court offense, half-court offense all the time as well. So all these things kind of work hand in hand. The good thing for this team is it's found a way to overcome those deficiencies. I think it's getting better at overcoming those deficiencies, and it needs to get better because the schedule isn't getting any easier.
And they're not getting any reinforcements either.
No.
Rob Finney, that was ruled out tonight. He will not be back for Michigan. We'll see if he'll be able to return in time for Maryland. I think is the next game after Michigan.
Yeah, they've got another
there's
5 days.
Too,
almost,
so there's a mini bye-in there after that Michigan game. But it was already. We can already maybe pivot to the Michigan game at this point. It's a big one. It was already going to be a tough road to climb with a healthy point guard, but even more so tonight. You kind of saw, with some of the things that Devontae Green tends to do. How that could maybe hurt you in a game against Michigan. Then again, given that Michigan is going to try to take away Juwan Morgan and is going to try to limit and could very well do that against Romeo Langford as well, maybe that is a game where Devontae Green, and because they're certainly going to need to hit threes in a place like that. They're going to need to hit shots, and he's certainly a guy who's acquitted himself to doing that. But yeah, I mean, this is no doubt a shorthanded team going up to a place like Michigan, playing a team that, while it has seen its struggles, I mean, getting a team like that who's defensively savvy enough to handle itself at home is certainly a tough challenge.
Yeah, and when you look at Michigan, I mean, obviously they're loaded on the perimeter and in the backcourt with a lot of guys, whether you're talking Simpson at the point guard, Jordan Poole, Charles Matthews. I mean, they've got a number of guys they can throw at you and throw at you defensively. I think they're a lot better equipped to challenge Romeo defensively, obviously, than Illinois is. Simpson's really underrated as a point guard. I think, and that'll be a tough matchup for Devontae. But it's not a game where Indiana can settle for threes, but it's a game where Indiana's going to have to knock down the threes it has. It can't go whatever it was. 2 of 12 tonight. Yeah, you go 2 of 12 at Michigan, unless you're going about 90% from 2. The rest of the rest of your shots is probably not going to go real well. But we'll see. I think this team has developed to the point, at least defensively, where it can keep itself in any kind of game. That'll be a real challenge, I think, at Michigan, because that's a place where things can definitely snowball. But then again, as Juwan Morgan mentioned, the only time he ever won there, it kind of snowballed the other way when Indiana went on that 28-0 run. So, hey, wild things happen in Ann Arbor. Or so I'm told.
That's one way to put it. Yeah, it's funny because this was kind of a smorgasbord of things that Indiana is and isn't tonight. Here, you saw a team that has its 2 best players were the ones leading the charge. I think you saw some good things and some bad things from Devontae Green. I think even Justin Smith too. I think he had a pretty quietly good game for Indiana. And at the same time, you had the slow starts, you had the lack of perimeter shooting. Right now, Indiana, it is what it is. It's a team that has some considerable upside, a springboard of a 3-0 start to kind of push it into a very tough January from here, where the bulk of its month is going to be spent on the road. But again, that defense does tend to travel. So if you can't have that pushing at your back, then you do kind of like your chances going up against some of these games this month.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it, 17 games to go in the Big Ten schedule. You're 3-0. Basically, if you could find a way to stay above 500 the rest of the way in the conference, I think you're right where you want to be in terms of making the NCAA tournament and getting a somewhat favorable seed, basically. So, and then anything above and beyond that, well, we'll see.
Yep, we'll see. That's the name of the game. We'll see. Sunday afternoon, 4:30. I believe that game's on
CBS.
CBS.
Right after the NFL playoff game.
I was cursing when I saw that on Sunday. I think we were all hoping for an earlier start up there.
Yes,
but,
well.
So it goes, and we'll see you up there in Ann Arbor. A exciting matchup. Number 21 Indiana against number 2 Michigan. Sunday afternoon. Talk to you there.